here under the rules of how we comport our business here. We can take no action under oral communication, so we're very clear about that. We do appreciate you all being here. We've heard what you have to say. Council members will decide what it is they want to do with regard to a special meeting, etc. It is not possible for us to do that today. So again, thank you all very much. We are now on.
I have a point of order question actually about.
Let's start with your point of order.
Are we barred from taking an action that would place something on a future agenda or call for a special meeting? City Attorney.
The limit of what you could do today is call for a special meeting.
I'd like to make that motion. The motion is I'd like to call for a special meeting in December and the placement of a permanent ceasefire resolution on that agenda using the Oakland version as a model.
So,
is there a second?
I'd like to second.
Excuse me. I know you're excited about this, and God love you for your excitement. We did not do that to you while you were up here. I would appreciate it when we're speaking, you give us the same respect. You can open on your motion, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have a lot to say. My heart is broken, and I just don't see any justification for killing civilians en masse. I condemn the attacks by Hamas. I condemn the sustained attacks by the Netanyahu government, the onslaught on the Palestinian people. I stand in solidarity with the people of Israel, the people of Gaza, the international community, all of you today who came out today, thank you. And now the United Nations. And I just feel an ethical responsibility to speak up. I wanted this to be on our agenda. I declined to put it on the agenda because of my concern about the lack of support. And I just can't be silent in the face of what's happening. I'll leave it there. Much more to say. For those who haven't heard from me, you will. Those of you over 500 of you who wrote emails to us. Thank you.
Further debate or discussion?
Mayor, may I speak? Thank you. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge and extend gratitude to all of the people who came and shared. I think that is why we engage in this way, and oftentimes we have no one here for oral communications. This was really an exception. And I know that I've met over the last couple months with many people across the community, and most recently with some neighbors, and even some of you sitting here today, asking for this and asking for a special meeting in December. And I did ask for a special meeting in December, but realistically, that probably won't happen, given that staff will be gone and offices will be closed, and we might not even have a quorum. However, we hear the urgency of what you're asking of us. I want to just speak to the commitment. I want to thank, there are several people I'll be meeting with over the holidays to help write some type of peaceful resolution that we can bring to our next meeting. And, we can ask for a special meeting, but realistically, I'm not sure when that would happen before our next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting. So that was what I wanted to speak to. If we can get something sooner, which I understand is probably not going to happen, but either way, I'm looking forward. I have, there are rabbis and even connections for mosque leaders and different people in the community and neighbors where we can really find a way to, we hear you. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. We hear your voices, and even though we don't make policy in foreign affairs, we can share the voices of our constituents. And it's not just Palestine that we have to consider. We have constituents that are pleading with us to not do a ceasefire. And so for me, working together with everyone in the community to make a humanitarian statement for peace is so important. And so thank you for working with us and working together to move forward.
Ms. Kalantari-Johnson is recognized.
Thank you. I heard a lot of folks today say, can you imagine? And it's hard for us to sit here across the world imagining. It's not hard for me to imagine. I grew up in a war-torn country. I experienced bombings. So the issue is very close to my heart. It's overwhelming to see and hear how much people care here in this community. And it is complicated. The death of human beings is not complicated, but this issue has decades and centuries of history. I don't support what's happening across the world. And I want to do my part within the scope of what I have the power to do. I wish I had the power to stop the human suffering, but I don't. I also know a lot of folks in this room who've spoke really believe in community engagement. So when this all started to transpire a couple months ago, I reached out to our local rabbis and I reached out to our Muslim mosque leaders and I met with them and I asked, what can I do to ensure the emotional and physical safety of you and your community? And there were some specific asks and I followed through. Whether it was making sure that there's increased patrol during Friday mosque, or increased patrol when there's events at temples, or connecting the leaders to our superintendent of schools to make sure that children are feeling safe at school. Those were the actions that are within my scope and my power to affect. And I continue to offer that. Honestly, I don't know what a resolution like this will do, but create more divisive narratives among our community members. I am in support of something that calls for a humanitarian response of peace, of unity. I'm not in support of creating more divisiveness in our community. I will take action, concrete action like the ones I just named, to help all members of our community. And don't think that this doesn't touch my heart. It touches all of our hearts. We're all human beings. But this is very close to home. I have firsthand experience. I think I can say that no one else on this dais does. I don't know how I'm going to vote on this, to be very honest. Not because I don't think it's important, but because I don't think it's going to accomplish what all of you want it to accomplish. That's what I'll say for now.
Further debate or discussion? Councilmember Watkins is recognized.
Yeah, no, I thank you, Councilmember Kalantari-Johnson, for sharing. Because I know that about you, and I don't know if our entire community does, and it's important for us to hear. I also want to thank the community members for coming. As was said, there's no question that this is something that touches everybody. I have a question, though, in regards to logistics, because I think I heard two different things. One, I heard to have this as a special meeting with the Oakland resolution, and two, to not have it as a special meeting and a humanitarian statement. So I'm not clear on what is being proposed.
The motion on the table is a special meeting in December. Use it with a resolution before the council that is identical to the Oakland City Council resolution. That's the motion.
In December.
In December.
Okay. Is that your second? And you seconded that motion with no changes? Okay.
Ms. Brown is recognized.
Are you asking for modifications? I will accept those if it gets us any possibility of actually moving forward. Happy to do that.
I'd like to see if we can get a special meeting scheduled. However, if not, then in January at our first meeting that we can bring something forward, as I have already committed to working with different leaders to write a resolution that really supports our community and speaks to their voices of peace and this humanitarian horror. So,
Accepted.
Brown is recognized. Ms. Brown?
Accepted. I believe that at this point, what we're doing is the motion would be to schedule a special meeting if that is not possible to hear this at the first meeting in January. And I didn't say identical to Oakland. I said based on the Oakland model. I'm happy to work with you on the
well,
language.
it takes a lot of people, and I'm meeting with a lot of people to really, our voices, everyone's voices in our community, they're speaking, and that's why we're here, so.
Well, I want to be as certain as the presiding officer that I understand what the motion is, because we've had more than one, and we can only have one at a time. Ms. Bush, there was an agreement between these two council members. Will you read what that is?
To schedule a special meeting if it's doable.
Period? Hard stop? Schedule a meeting. For what
Or at the
purpose?
first meeting of January.
For what purpose?
For a resolution, I'll say it's in progress, so.
Well, it seems to me that if you don't have a resolution, anybody is free to advance any resolution they want when we get to that agenda item. Ms. Bush.
What I got the first time around was to make the resolution identical to the city of Oakland.
Those were the words.
Did I really say identical?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I will then, that would be my preference, but I am willing, based upon what the seconder of the motion said, to change that to suggest a ceasefire resolution developed through community input.
Is that your?
Does that work for you?
Yeah, because
Well, let me make sure. Is the answer to that yes? We good?
yes, if it doesn't say
Now I know
identical
what the
to
motion
Oakland,
is.
then
Now I know what-
I'm
as
fine with
a
that.
presiding officer, I understand the motion. Debate or discussion on this. I am assuming that we are not directing someone here to bring forth a resolution. And nobody here has been, the motion does not say that the city manager or you are going to do that. So how does this resolution get in front of us? What is your thought as the maker of the motion?
As the maker of the motion, I also said that I am very much willing to be involved in a community dialogue. I think I said work with you, but I got cut off, so I couldn't say anymore. So I will say work with Councilmember Brunner. If there is another council member who would like to be involved, to engage with the community. We've got plenty of people who have contacted us. I think we can get that conversation going pretty quickly. It's already happening.
Now let me ask the logistical question. Mr. City Manager, let's talk about the reality of getting a special meeting before the end of the calendar year.
Thanks for the question, Mayor. Special meeting is unlikely. It's not impossible. It's largely dependent on the council's availability. City Hall goes dark the week of the 25th for the holidays, so the meeting would have to take place sometime next week. And I believe looking to the city attorney also requires 24-hour noticing and, of course, time for you all to engage with the community to craft something. So it would be tight.
Mr. City Attorney, any additions to that comment?
No, I think the challenge will be in the drafting more than in the scheduling. But I agree, it would have to be scheduled by next week unless it were to come back in January.
All right. Now it's understood. Councilmember Golder is recognized.
I don't think there's any doubt that anybody in the room thinks what's happening in the Middle East is horrific. There's horrific things happening all over the world, in Ukraine and Russia and Sudan and all sorts of awful things that we don't oversee as this body. And I hear what people are saying, that we can amplify your voice. I don't think this is the way to do it. I really do not. I think if you would have sent those emails to our state and federal representatives, it would have been more effective. We have a lot of business before us this evening that is within the scope of our jurisdiction. I've said repeatedly that I think part of what makes people not want to run for city council is the long meetings. And it's great to hear from people and it's great to have engagement. But we have a lot of actual work to do. And getting involved in politics of the Middle East is not something that I feel educated, comfortable making decisions about, or even recommendations. So I'm not going to support it.
Our feedback is your work. I'm so disappointed.
No, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
White privilege. Stop calling it the Middle East.
Excuse
It's
me.
not the Middle East.
Excuse me.
Palestine.
Excuse me.
So disgusting. Really disgusting. That was so disgusting.
I think that further it exposes how divisive this issue is. As a Jewish woman, on
Officer, take care of that business.
Hanukkah,
Officer, take care of the business. Thank you.
on Hanukkah, we're still having the meeting as the sun goes down because we spent 4 hours talking about this. And so I think that this is a divisive issue in our community, and I'm not willing to sign on to anything that's going to further divide our community. I'm sorry.
For the, the matter is still before the council. Is there further debate or discussion? Well, I'll make a couple of comments. I'm still not entirely clear that we have effectively authorized 2 members of the council to bring an agenda item if this motion passes. But if we do, I'll make some comments. If you're seeking input about what will fly or not fly, or what people are interested and not interested in. So we have heard 4 hours of testimony today, and it has gone over quite a bit of subject matter. Some people have indicated they would like to see a ceasefire for essentially humanitarian purposes without adding on to that additional comments, effectively placing my characterization blame on the situation. Some have gone quite a bit farther. A lot of comments, in fact, the vast majority of comments also ask us to essentially support the notion that Israel has no right to be there as a state. That was stated by dozens and dozens of people. There were additional comments about what some characterize as genocide in this situation. I'm not going to debate you about that. This is, you've had your moments, you've had your 4 hours, you're going to get more hours if this passes. I will say I will not support a resolution which questions the legitimacy of the state of Israel. So if you're going to bring that forward and you want my vote, don't put that in there. If this motion passes and you're going to bring a resolution, I'm not going to support a resolution which attempts to characterize what is going on at this time as genocide. If you're interested in my vote on this, should this matter pass, I am standing with Israel, so that we're very clear about what my position is. Are there further questions, debate, or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Newsome?
No.
Brown?
Aye.
Watkins?
Aye.
Brunner?
Aye. And I just want to say,
No,
Okay.
no.
aye.
We,
Kalantari-Johnson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Golder?
No.
Mayor Keeley?
aye. We're moving on now to item 5, which is a proclamation. We are going to have this item deferred until January 9th, 2024. Presiding officer announcements, I will defer those to the end of the meeting. Statement of disqualification, I abstain on item 12 insofar as it is within 500 feet of my residence. Any other abstentions due to conflicts? Seeing, hearing none. Next item is additions or